Has Pokemon died, and was it all just a phase? Let's talk about that. The Pokemon TCG wasn't always at the highs that it is now. Over the last 30 years, we've seen a massive journey. We've seen ebbs and flows, ups and downs. And there were times that people actually thought the game might die. So back in the early 2000s, when Pokemon took over printing the cards themselves, which was for the EX sets. So we had those early EX sets like Ruby, Sapphire, Sandstorm, EX Magma versus Aqua, and we also had EX Dragon. Those were some of the least printed sets that Pokemon have ever made. You know, there was a couple of other sets where the line is drawn. Maybe, EX Emerald is in there, Hidden Legends, Fire Red Leaf Green, Team Rocket Returns. We're not entirely sure exactly at what point they started ramping printing up a little bit again, but we know that those EX era sets, the early ones at least, were massively underprinted because the demand back then was not very high. And I'm going to put throughout the video, there's going to be some screenshots from forums over the last 20 years of people saying that they think the game has died, people aren't playing it anymore, people aren't collecting it anymore, it looks like it's going to die. Whatever it is, the whole IP itself has gone through massive ups and downs over the last X years. And it's not always, obviously, the highs that we see now. Now, sets sell themselves, really. Pokemon know what the hype machine is. They know how to set a set. But it wasn't always the case. Wizards of the Coast printed the sets from base set in English all the way up to E-Series Skyridge. And then Pokemon took it over for themselves in 2003. And there's going to be a couple of the screenshots that I mentioned. I'm going to read some of them. This was in December 21st, 2003. In America, Pokemon was nothing more than a fad. It died out years ago, and you can never seem to find anyone else who likes it. You can still try to convince your friends that Pokemon is a good thing. All of my friends that are Pokemon fans that didn't care for it a few years, but then I got them interested in it. It really caters to everyone, so it's not difficult to get into. Let's have a look at a couple of other ones. This is December 23rd as well, so this is the same post. Pokemon, Digimon, Dragon Ball Z, they're dead here where I live. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has taken its place. I really dislike people disliking Yu-Gi-Oh! Just because it took Pokemon's spotlight. Pokemon is really childish and its fans have grown more mature and they want more scary stuff. Now, this obviously relates to what I was saying where people were getting older now. They were in high school or secondary school and, they weren't, they were getting in their teenage years. And when you're a teenager, you like more teenage things. Obviously, at that point, people might have been getting into Yu-Gi-Oh! Or people might have been getting into video games or playing football or sports. Socializing with your friends. Maybe they didn't want to play Pokemon anymore. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is childish with all the friendship stuff and crap. And I guess it's the fans that will get tired of it. It has dark and scary monsters and little children may be afraid of it. But they'll grow too. And probably they might like it because they're not old enough. Or maybe they should just drop it because another better show might come up. I also think the other reason Pokemon has dropped because the show's too friggin' long. It's annoying already. At least Pokemon got replaced by a better show. No shame in that. In quotations, gets killed by people. It's funny reading people type in, obviously before social media got really big. Another post on that was, I like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon. I don't care who wins the battle. I'm just in it for the monsters blowing each other up. The images on Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards are a bit disturbing, being the reason that were banned at my school. Anyways, Pokemon replaced Dragon Ball Z, Yu-Gi-Oh! Replaced Pokemon, and I'll bet the new cartoon on Kids WB called Astro Boy will eventually replace Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon and go forth. Pokemon will die eventually, but it'll be the last fan standing. So it's interesting that they said that Astro Boy would replace Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon. I think Astro Boy was a little bit popular, but it never really left Japan. It never really was huge over in the West. A card game like Duel Masters, for instance, that's extremely popular still in Japan, and it came over here and it never really took off. And I think the last Duel Monsters card that was printed actually was, because it's printed by Wizards of the Coast, it was printed in a Christmas card a couple of years back alongside a Magic the Gathering card. I'll read a couple other more of these. So this is in 2006 now, so this would have been around EX Power Keepers towards the end of EX era now. The EX era was quite a big block. Diamond and Pearl started in 2007. I think the kids grew up of it are now too old for it, but I bet there'll be a time when you look back with fond memories of playing the games with your friends, having huge battles and tournaments. Don't make the mistake that most of us grown-ups did, and don't sell everything or give it away. Just put it away for a later date and you'll be glad you did. Not really for the monetary value, but for the memories. You can come back to them and say, hey, I remember beating so-and-so with this deck, and I remember the big hoopla over this card. Now, I think that's amazing advice, and this was somebody called Lady Jane. April 22nd, 2006, saying that keep your cards. Now, one of the things that I get often so much is that I wish that I kept my cards. I wish my parents kept my cards. I grew out of it and I was like, yeah, you can get rid of it at a yard sale or garage sale or car boot sale. And what has been a huge drive for Pokemon's huge popularity of these last 5 years is a nostalgia factor. And people going, well, I wish I had these cards again. They start buying base set and they kind of work their way through into modern and stuff. But they probably all regret it. And I've heard so many people say, oh, if I just kept these, I would have so much money. Now, that's not always the case. A lot of people didn't keep their cards in good condition. They weren't first edition. So here's another one, which was in response to that. Swiss Army R5, April 24th, 2006. It seems pretty dead to me. The card game is not played much at all. Used to find those cards, even the hologram ones, all the time in books and desks at the library I work at. You go replace that. I never watched the tune or played the card game. I had the old Star Wars CCG instead. That might be... I think that could be Young Jedi, maybe, from Decipher, or it might have been the one from the 90s. I did enjoy the Game Boy, though. Game, though. It was cool and well designed. It's been a long time since I played those. Here's another one in 2007. I've seen a few posts on BGG reference CCGs, collectible card games, as a fad. Are those games dead? I'd like to make one along with everybody else just to try it. Or does it mean that card games may be dead or dying, but that card games are good? I don't really know what that means. Is it possible that simply card games are still alive and well, but not CCG? Okay, they're talking about Pokemon Magic. And then there was an article on Poker Beach, actually, in 2014. Is the Pokemon TCG dead? And someone put, I guess so. It's pretty dead in Europe, but not so in America. 4 people turned up for the Phantom Forces pre-release. Now, Phantom Forces boxes, I think one sold for $17,000. Someone put this a great, someone obviously that's a player of the game, said that it's a really great format, one of the best they've seen in years. There isn't one single deck that's really good, but there is a plethora, and there's a really good balance and diversity through the sets, which is great. Someone put, I don't think the game is dying, it's just not always feasible to find active leagues in every location. In Colorado, I don't see too many players around. A few turned up a local comic card place here sometimes, but I don't really ever see many people here. Then someone put, in America, the game actually appears to be growing with increased price support, which is great. So I think with a lot of things is, before social media is really big and these big communities, before these hobbies is really, really huge, the only kind of metric you have really is your local scene. Now, my local scene for Fab has gone up and down. My local scene for Pokemon has gone up and down. But it doesn't mean that those games are dead or dying. It just simply means that, the people that are in this vicinity either don't know that it's out there, or simply there's just not enough people that like it. Time comes into effect as well when you're playing these things. Not everyone has the time. Someone put, again, the TCG is dying in Europe, and there's no denying that. The name's in Japanese. I don't know if that's a Japanese person or it's just someone being edgy. A lot of people did that back then. They'd put all their bio in kanji to seem a bit edgy in that. There's another one, and this is a really interesting one actually, because this is actually about them stopping printing the cards on physical cards and them doing a digital, which hasn't happened but kind of has. We obviously have the Pocket game, which is a digital version of it. I was thinking about this at work, since all my cards are not in binders anymore. It might be a year or 3 until I have the money for binders and proper pages. I don't know what that means, because I used to get binders and pages, but you wouldn't get, they were like the D binders, right? I've got them up here. They're not like the binders that we have today, but they were the D binders. And I used to get the pages from W.H. Smith, or you can get them online. And they used to be about 10p a page. So I'd get a couple... back then anyway, I'd get like 10 or 20 pages a month really, and kind of just do it over time. But anyway, I'm not sure if they'll use anything in, say, 2025, which is really interesting because we're in 2025. I suppose they might switch to fully only digital cards or plastic cards. Unless they're printed on recycled paper, I suppose paper cards could last for decades, or more example, like plain or blackjack playing cards that have been around since the 1500s. Which is quite interesting, because obviously we have a digital card game. It's extremely popular. We still have cards printed on paper, but obviously we have both, and they're still printed on paper. Another post was from, I guess this was from maybe one of the earlier posts or something. No, this is just a separate one, I think, from 2007. Yes, Pokemon the biggest craze for kids, or is it? Was it? It's still a hot seller, but it has been in very much visible decline. Even my friends who were poker crazy are now off doing other things with their lives. Even myself, I find it hard to pick up the Pokemon game and play it as much as I did. I remember back when I first got Pokemon Silver, I picked it up early in the morning, only took breaks to eat. Took it to the bathroom with me, enjoyed it so much, even when I went to bed. You know, we all did that. Especially when the Game Boy Advance SP came out with the light. Pokemon was what got me into the gaming universe, and it feels really good. So that was just about Pokemon. Die and welcome to 4 years ago, because while the Pokemon video game may still be cash cow, the overall franchise died 2 years ago. So this is in 2007, so they said it died. It says banned underneath, so he must have got banned afterwards. But apparently it died in 2003, which was around the time I was talking about when the decline started happening. So I think that is all that I have saved. There is a lot more, but I didn't save anymore on my phone. But there's loads. If you go on there, just put Pokemon is dying and then, you know, put a year or something. You know, as I said, during the EX era, XY era, Diamond and Pearl era, there was a lot of drop off in popularity, but it's going to happen, right? It's part of trends and it happens. There's always phases. But there'll be drop offs again in the future, as we have seen over the last 5 years. There's ups and downs and ebbs and flows. But, you know, there's no cause for alarm. The game actually isn't going to die. Pokemon is too much of a cash cow that it'll ever stop. But, you know, we might see some years of decline or quietness, I guess. If they make bad sets as well, that also has a thing. If the meta isn't very good. They've done a really good balance now of making really great sets that are, I guess, appealing for collectors and players as well. I know quite a few players that play the game and they had a really good time. They actually loved Shrouded Fable, whereas collectors didn't so much. That might be the kind of dud set for collectors, but then it was good for players, so somebody enjoyed it, right? But I just thought it'd be quite interesting to talk about that, because I've lived through all of this. So I've seen all my friends into Pokemon versus none of my friends into Pokemon. Everyone collecting, no one collecting. I was making videos on YouTube as early as 2008 or 9, I think it was, on Pokemon. I remember watching, you know, some of the OGs in the time, and it ebbs and flows, right, I think. But, you know, it is what it is at the end of the day. I know a lot of people say that, but it is. Enjoy the hobby. Enjoy what you enjoy about the hobby. It's great if you have friends as well that go to card shows. You want to enjoy hobbies with friends, right? It makes it a lot more enjoyable. But social media is obviously Reddit's forums, you know, all help as well. It gives you people to talk to as well. So, but let me know in the comments below what your favourite Pokemon era is. And please comment, subscribe as always, and have a great day.